Yuba-Sutter.live's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com.
Public to address the Board of Directors on any subject matter that is not on the meeting agenda and is within the board's subject matter jurisdiction. Public comment periods are limited to 3 minutes per person, and the total amount of time for public comment is 15 minutes. Persons participating by way of a video conference or teleconference shall ensure their audio is muted at all times, except when the board chair announces public comment periods. At those designated times, members of the public wishing to speak shall enable their audio and state their name for the record. When multiple members of the public wish to speak, the clerk will determine the order of speakers and announce their names accordingly. To ensure proper conduct, the board reserves the right to mute the audio and video of any member of the public violating generally accepted principles and decorum of official public meetings. Do the public comment in the room first, sir.
So I believe we have Charles as first.
Good morning, Charles Sharp. I hope from Oregon House. I hope everybody is doing well this morning. Today, I shall speak briefly about one of our favorite subjects, governance. When the Yuba County Water Agency was formed in 1959, the 5 county supervisors became the ex officio directors of the agency. This was fine. The organization was just getting started and the supervisors wanted to keep close tabs on what they had created. Time passes and it is decided to amend the act to include 2 additional directors. Time passes. The PG&E debt gets paid off, the FERC relicensing is finished, and the agency has become involved in a myriad of water issues within the county and within the state of California. Directors have a busy schedule. Directors also have a busy schedule being county supervisors. Gentlemen, both are full-time jobs. You cannot do one or the other with the attention it needs, or both in a halfway manner. I don't know what the solution is to this conflict of time and conflict of interest. That is up to the agency to figure out, but the people of Yuba County, I think, deserve better than a halfway effort one way or the other. The 2 main missions of the Yuba Water Agency are to keep Marysville from flooding and to provide water to the people of Yuba County, both in the valley and in the foothills. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We have another, is it Marquis? Marika.
Marieke Verney, Oregon House. Thank you very much for your time. Dear Yuba Water Agency, a few months ago, you approved a grant request from North Yuba for $104,000 to pay for a study how to sell their water on the open market. Some of you mentioned that it was just a study and granted the money. On February 4, our concerns about this study became reality. Irrigation district. These 2 agencies share the same general counsel. In the board discussion about this item, it became clear that the general manager's view is that all of 15,500 acre feet of Tier 3 water that North Yuba has permits for is on the table to sell. Only one board member voiced some concern, and I quote, he just a little bit interested in not selling all of Tier 3. Then he continued, and I quote again, that it was not insurmountable. Another board member mentions that his vote is only for the appointment of negotiators. You see where this is going. Time and time again, it was mentioned that this water could not travel to the irrigation customers anyway. That is not true. Capacity in the ditch could be greatly improved with a few weeks of South Feather Water Empowers agency's expert work and generous offer for mutual aid. Much more water could be sold to the customers within the area of use. That brings us to my second point for today. To quote North Yuba's general manager on February 4th, 2021, he said, 3,700 acre-feet is the maximum we can take without penalty of lost power generation. The minutes of July 22nd, 2013 say Manager Maupin reminded the board that there is additional water available, 15,500 acre-feet. It is just a matter of paying for this at power generation cost. We all know, you especially, that water is a powerful commodity and it carries a cost, not a penalty. These costs for additional water were in 2013 and 2012 accounted for in the budget, about $58,000 each year, and they were paid. This is about half of the monthly legal cost North Yuba is currently accumulating. Now that the general manager sees these costs as a penalty and plans to sell off the Tier 3 water, I'm greatly concerned that we will never see a full irrigation season again. We don't need that much additional water. In the past, the amount that was bought from South Feather ran under 1,000 acre-feet. The price might be negotiable, and the district still has $4 million in cash at this time. My research with South Feather and NID showed that there is a balance between delivering irrigation water, power revenues, and water sales. Some aspects of the operation make more money than others.
If you'll wrap this up, you're running out of time.
I'm almost done. 2 sentences. A water district is not a hedge fund. It has a mission to serve customers, and it uses a good strategy to make it work. My hope is that you all, working towards a regional approach and powering a brighter future, can help North Yuba to devise a better strategy for serving their customers in the short term and in the future. And thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Carolyn.
Morning, guys, women. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Carolyn Mccall, and this is the first time I've ever come before the board. Thank you for allowing me to be here in person. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about myself. I've been trying to make a go in Dobbins for 10 years. And prior to that, I spent 20 years in Mexico. I built a bed and breakfast on the beach. I had a restaurant and bar on the beach. I had a little horse rental for tourists on the beach. I was a massage therapist. I ran a wildlife center. I reinvented myself. I've worn a lot of hats in order to survive in life. I've reinvented myself a million times. And I have been throwing pasta on the wall in my kitchen here in Dobbins for 10 years and haven't been able to make it work. I left Mexico because of the cartel. Anybody that was looking successful down there was in danger of losing their life. And I decided I wanted my foot back in the United States again. I spent 4 years looking for the right piece of property. I thought I found it. I bought 143 acres in Dobbins. I researched it quite well. I found out that in the past it had irrigation. It came with 6 inches of irrigation. In the past, it had really no water problems. I bought it in 2011, the same year that the new manager came to the North Yuba Water District. I researched that there'd only been 4 seasons since its inception, that there was curtailments, and those curtailments were generally as late as September, so most people got a full season of water. And this land really shouldn't go to waste. It's, like I said, it's 143 acres. I had the NRCS, Natural Resources Conservation Service, out. The guy was, one spring rainy morning, he was bouncing off my ceiling saying, "You don't know what you've got here." He says, "You've got class 1 soil." He says, "I had no idea there was any class 1 soil in the foothills." He says, "I've lived my whole life here." And he says, I didn't know this existed. He says, you could grow anything here. You could grow walnuts here. And I was stunned. No, that all the ranch isn't that good of soil, but there's 20 acres of it. That's quite a bit. It's up to 80 inches deep in topsoil.
So Carolyn, you have about 14 seconds.
Okay, in my opinion, it's a crime to not use it. And I'm trying to start a dairy. I've done many things in the 10 years I've been there. I desperately need water. You have to help us and make this work, please. I gotta have it. And I drove all the way in here, got up an hour early. I'm trying to run a dairy. I'm in the middle of lambing season. And this is the squeakiest wheel I've got, and it's deafening to me after 10 years of listening to it squeak. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay. Moving on to consent items, we'll pull item number 2.
Mr. Chair, I'll move the consent with that item pulled.
Second. I have a first and a second. Comments from the public? Hearing no comment, roll call, please.
Certainly, we can start with Director Matthews.
Yes.
Director Blazer.
Yes.
Director Vasquez.
Yes.
Director Fuhrer.
Yes.
Director Hasty.
Yes.
Director Fletcher.
Yes.
Okay, so we pull item number 2 for discussion first.
Okay, so item number 2, consider finding of a majority vote under Government Code Section 54953E3 that a result of a continuing COVID-19 emergency. So for discussion, we'll start with Brent.
Thanks, through the chair. I actually asked the chair to pull this. I'm having a difficult time as I watch 70,000 people play at the Super Bowl with no mask. The mask comes off today. I mean, it's the last day for indoor masks. I'm going to say this. It looks to me like we're passing this because it's really convenient for us, but there's no emergency. I'm not in an emergency. I can be here, and I can also have learned with Jim that I can give you the address I'm going to be at, and I can still have a Zoom call. And so I just have a hard time voting. I have a hard time continuing to vote for an emergency when I think that emergency is pretty well done. You know, I mean, right now there's a, just to give you an idea, we're actually in a drought emergency from 21. And I noticed that on Mavens today that we got to shorten our public hearing for our movement of water into Contra Costa from 30 days to 15 days because it's still an emergency. And I can tell you that absolutely is a drought emergency right now. But I'm not convinced that this is an emergency anymore. We've all learned to live with it. So it's much, I mean, if we pass it, we pass it. If we don't, we don't. But I don't want it on consent because I want the opportunity to say, I disagree with this. And that's the reason I pulled it. I just really don't think it's an emergency anymore. And it's difficult for me to I can't find an argument where I think this is an emergency. We're all here, and so I just think we should just do it. And then if we have to be gone, we just let Jim know 3 days ahead of time where we might be. And if we're not there, we miss a meeting. But the reality is, I don't think it's an emergency. So I'd like to not pass it. So that's why I asked it to be pulled. Thanks.
Oh, through the chair, I'd like to make a comment. It hasn't been an emergency actually ever. It's I gave you an article of what was going to happen, and everything has happened. But we have someone with his hair on fire that has made us dance around the rose bush here, and to follow. To be able to get participation by the full board. I think that we need to pass it. We have to also agree that this is not an emergency as emergencies were originally designed for immediate things, but this is what we have to do to survive in this climate. And I would make the motion that we do pass this under protest, but I move to pass this.
So I have a motion, but do we have any other comments?
Yes. First off, I think that they hold their breath or have their mask in their hand, just so you know. So it's completely safe. The phrasing that we used for the declaration for the Board of Supervisors on the county side, I think is a little bit cleaner in that it's more general to emergency, because we're looking at things such as if there's an evacuation because of the Orville Dam or other things. So perhaps we could change the phrasing to that, and then it would be less oriented on a particular emergency that may not seem as emergent as some have thought in the past.
I would like to, I agree with the comment about the emergency, but I'm also for transparency. And I think that our Zoom meetings gives the public a much better chance and insight into how we operate, why we operate, and what we're doing. So I fully go along that it's not an emergency, but I like the idea of the Zoom, because when you look at how many people are listening and finding out about us, and if we go back to where it's only a physical meeting, they lose all that connectivity. And so I'm for ending the mask mandate, but I'm very much for the Zoom format that we've learned to live with over the last few months.
Through the chair, Charlie, I am not asking to get rid of Zoom. I want the Zoom meetings. The only thing this emergency does is allows us to be somewhere we're not. It's only changes for the people sitting at this board. It has nothing to do. So if you wanted to have your meeting and you had to be in your office, as long as you told Jim 3 days ahead of time, you could be at the office. So the Zoom meeting's not going away. That's not what this is about. This is only, as I see this is convenient for us. And I'll tell you that somebody who lived through the 97 flood, I went to every meeting in person while my family was evacuated and there was nobody in this county. The reality is it's possible in an emergency to have meetings because we've done it all of our lives. And this just doesn't feel like an emergency. All of us are going to be here. We all want to be here if any way possible. And if we don't have to be, I mean, if we can't, if we can't, say this, it seems to me that we're doing this so we can't, because we can't plan 3 days ahead. If there's another emergency, you can declare an emergency. I mean, the reality, but we can plan 3 days ahead. We're county supervisors and water agency district members. And all we got to do is tell Jim where we're going to be. I don't see this as, that's not worthy of an emergency declaration. That's me. So I'll leave it at that. I'll second it just to get it done and voted for.
I need clarification.
So
we're voting to be an emergency or non-emergency. The only way we can presently have a Zoom meeting is with, or maybe somebody could explain, if we pass a motion where we don't have the emergency, do we still have the ability to have the public on a Zoom meeting at all?
Yeah, so Charlie, I'll hand this off to counsel and you'll get a legal opinion here really quick.
Charlie, as Brent indicated, the issue before you has nothing to do with whether or not to continue Zoom. You can continue the Zoom meetings for public participation and staff participation with or without this particular agenda item, and it's staff's intention to continue that aspect. The only issue is whether or not a director may participate via Zoom, and there's two ways for a director to do that. One way is with the continuation of this very special finding, which is COVID specific, that you conclude that there's an imminent risk to all the directors getting together, in which case if you make that finding on an ongoing basis, a director may then participate via Zoom along with everybody you see on the screen. Option two is sort of the pre-COVID rules. Before COVID, if you recall, the Brown Act has always allowed directors to participate via conference call or video conference, and those rules haven't gone away. The only inconvenience is two things. One is, as Brent indicated, you have to let staff know ahead of time before the agenda goes out, so we specify your meeting location. And number two, that meeting location by law becomes a public meeting location, and someone in theory could show up at your home or your hotel room or wherever you are and say, hey, I want to participate. In reality, and you guys know better than I do because you're the one doing it, it never happens. But that's the sort of legal fiction we deal with there. So you still have that second option even without this very COVID-specific comment, but the Zoom meet, this has nothing to do with whether or not the agency decides to continue Zoom participation for public and staff.
Thank you very much for the clarification. So you're saying we didn't have Zoom meetings prior to the COVID. We didn't know about them. Now you're saying that's an option that any director 3 days ahead of time could be out of.
Yes. In one of the windfalls, one of the benefits of COVID is we've all learned about Zoom. 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, I didn't know about Zoom. I know a lot about it now, and I suspect that's true for a lot of folks. And the agency staff has found the value in that because it allows, you got broader public participation. It allows staff to participate and monitor. You got various consultants scattered about. It allows those consultants to participate in your meetings and monitor them without you having to pay for them to travel here. So there's a lot of benefits to the Zoom meetings, and we will continue that.
Thank you very much.
So any other comment? I guess the only quick comment I have is the benefit from this, as expressed, is it does allow each board member, if you don't feel well, you have a cold, you have the flu, you're not up to exposing everyone else in this room to that particular illness, you could in fact stay home and vote. You could still participate without this, but you can't vote. Is that correct? Correct. So at this point, it's the governor's state of emergency that gives us broader coverage of this board meeting by the board members, directors. It gives them that opportunity. But the Zoom meeting continues. And we had looked at this, I'm going to say 4 or 5 years ago from the Board of Supervisors. It was an issue of technology, money, changing all of our internal operation, technical, that we weren't ready to do. We didn't financially have the ability to do, but created it over a bit of time. So all that came together. Having said all of that, I actually have a motion that was made, a second, and by voting on this, one way or the other affects this meeting, not necessarily in the future, but this particular one. Again, I believe that is how we're set up. Everyone is here. There is no one else that it's going to interfere with or affect. So I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Just so I'm clear, the motion is to, in effect, remove this from future agendas. Did I misunderstand?
What I heard was this was a motion for this item today.
To approve the item.
Yes.
Very good. Thank you. So noted. Thank you. Roll call vote. Director Blazer.
Yes.
Thank you. Director Fuhrer.
I really appreciate the veracity and transparency. And so in this particular case, I find that convenience is why we are doing it. I completely agree with everything you're saying. I know that the last meeting, I didn't attend timely, nor did you, because of the state of emergency we have in Yuba County with roads. And so I find that other states of emergency sometimes apply. I do like the fact that we're idea of getting rid of states of emergency when they don't have any kind of positive, constructive effect. But in this case, it seems like there is one. So I'm going to vote that we have this, yes.
Thank you. Director Matthews.
Yes. I'm sorry.
Director Matthews.
A shorter yes.
Director Hasty.
Short no.
Director Fletcher.
Yes.
And Director Vasquez.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-1.
Very good. Moving right along with the discussion items, consider approval of the following. A minor change to the Yuba River Development Project water right license to add the Narrows 1 powerhouse.
One way to get there.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Ryan McNally, I'm your Director of Water Resources and Flood Risk Reduction. So before you this morning is just a procedural housekeeping that we intend to do, but we intend to add power generation at Narrows 1 to several of our non-consumptive water rights. And so what we're asking for in action this morning is for the manager to request that change with the State Water Resources Control Board and to allow us to file a CEQA exemption in both Yuba and Nevada counties.
Questions from the board?
Move approval.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Comments from the public? Hearing no comment, roll call, please.
Thank you. Let's start with Director Vasquez,
Yes.
Director Fletcher,
Yes.
Director Blazer,
Yes.
Director Matthews,
Yes.
Director Fuhrer,
Yes.
Director Hasty,
Yes.
6-0.
Thank you. Okay, this is the most important part of the day coming in front of us now. Let me pass this off to Jim. Thank you.
I was just going to thank you, Mr. Chair. We have Lisa and Allison here from the Yuba Watershed Fire Safe Council and the, the Resource Conservation District. Sorry, they're really new. I'm learning things. So thank you very much. I'll introduce them, and I'm not sure which one's going to start. They have a presentation for us.
Hello, good morning. I'm
Good
Lisa
morning.
Lindman. I'm going to start with my presentation. Let me just make sure. Is the presentation already up? Okay. There it is. There it goes.
Yep.
All right.
Looks good.
All right, can everybody see it? All right, thank you very much for having me. I am Lisa Lindman with the Yuba County Resource Conservation District. I am the board president. Just a little background on myself. I am actually the executive director for the Sutter Buttes Regional Land Trust, and the work I do with the Resource Conservation District is fully volunteer work. I've helped start the Resource Conservation District back in 2019 as one of the first board members, and we are appointed by the board and the public. And so I'm here today to talk about the Yuba County Resource Conservation District because it is newly started from 2019. So I want to give the board a quick overview of kind of what we're all about and what we're here for. So moving on to our first slide here. So the RCD assists landowners and land managers in providing stewardship of the county's natural resources and educates stakeholders and policymakers about the county's natural resource base. So we are a special district, and with that, we operate under the county. We actually have a suite on the outside of the county building that the county has generously donated to the RCD, which is a shared space with our Fire Safe Council. And we are non-regulatory but publicly accountable. As I said, we are appointed by the public and the board, and we have to hold our public meetings. But we are basically kind of a liaison between the county and the public. So even NRCS is another one of our partners who really utilizes us in that way to kind of help bridge that gap, because we represent the public. As I mentioned, I'm a volunteer. So, everything we do is really trying to get the public involved and weighing in on everything that we do. And we have a lot of collaborative, innovative, and versatile partners like the Fire Safe Council, Natural Resource Conservation Services, NRCS, as one of our partners. We work with other RCDs, South Yuba River Citizens League, all sorts of partners. It's a pretty broad range because we have a lot of different natural resources in our county. So we do work on things from agriculture to forest related resources. And a lot of RCDs are known as being providers of technical assistance. So oftentimes they partner with other local agencies and organizations to provide technical assistance of varying sorts. So that's something that the RCD can fill, and able to leverage resources to achieve the greatest impact. I've especially seen that true with a lot of other RCDs in the area, that they really are able to leverage different partnerships and funding from grants to be able to bring a lot of money into the county and do some really great projects. So our long-term goals, these were actually developed prior to myself coming on to the board, and we just kind of updated the wording a little bit and added added some forest sustainability on there in goal 5. But you can see it's a wide range of natural resource issues that we address, from erosion, soil quality, water issues, wildlife protection enhancement, promoting tourism and recreation, working with farmers and ranchers, forest, and so yeah, there's just a variety of things that we can assist with, as well as providing a forum and facilitation for resolution of conservation issues, goal 2 there. So we work with NRCS to provide a working group meeting that we hold annually, and work with NRCS and our local stakeholders to get input and feedback on what we're up to. And that last goal 6 is just to improve the RCD viability. So accomplishments. So yeah, since we've been started, it's been, as I mentioned, a fully volunteer board, and we really haven't had a lot of staff. We've had a little bit of admin help, and that's about it. So all the stuff you see here is mainly board driven. So we've also been partnering with the Sutter County RCD, and part of that is because of our capacity. Since this is mostly board run, we've been relying on our partnerships, and Sutter RCD is one of our partnerships, and they have really similar resources, certainly, except for the forest resources, one that is unique to Yuba County. So in any case, we've been working with the Sutter RCD on a Monarch grant, where we did a coloring contest for kids, and we helped provide growers with information on how to establish monarch habitats. And then we also did a CDFA hub where we held 3 agricultural-based workshops. And so they were specific to needs of our local farmers, and provided information in Spanish and Punjabi to help underserved farmers, which I think is really important in our community. We have a very diverse community. So that's kind of something that we really want to focus on with the RCD, is being able to work with all farmers of all types, and being able to supply them with that information that that they can understand. And we also did the Healthy Soils program with Sutter County RCD, and assisting farmers in healthy soils applications for NRCS. And so one of our other accomplishments was the Cal Recycle Farm and Ranch Cleanup Program. This is a great program. We've so far got 11 property owners. We've completed 5 properties thus far, and we're on the 2nd round so far. And the total amount of money we've received in grants is $345,401. And that's over about 1,500 acres, just under 1,500 acres. And as I mentioned, 11 property owners. And what we do is we work with the property owners to address the illegal dumping, secure the site, address any security issues that need to be upgraded, like fencing or gates, to just secure the site so the illegal dumping doesn't continue. And yeah, so we're really proud of this, because we have been able to really see the benefits, as you see in that lower picture. Some of these sites, it's just incredible, the amount of trash, and it's kind of usually hidden from view. And it ends up that our farmers have to deal with it, and, they're trying to grow our food. So I think, they should be able to focus on that. So, this program really helps them secure their site, get rid of, what is sometimes even a health issue as well. So some of this dumping occurs in the orchards, and so it's just really important for us to help these farmers to clean up their site, secure it, and that way they can focus on their farming and not having to deal with all this illegal activity. And so, so more recently, some of you might have participated in a needs assessment that we're working on, and the Water Agency did approve our some budget funds for that needs assessment, which we really appreciate. And I think that needs assessment was long overdue for us to really kind of get down and dirty with our stakeholders and find out what it is we need to become and what needs we can serve in our community. And as I mentioned, we started in 2019 with 3 board members, and all volunteer, and just building up the RCD to what it is today. And you've seen we've been able to do a little bit but there's so much more that the RCD can do. And I've seen that with other RCDs. We can really bring a lot of funding into the county and be able to help with a variety of projects and really build our community and grow our community and our resilience. And in order to be a successful and effective RCD, what we found is that we need a baseline budget of about $60,000 to $150,000 per year for 3 to 5 years. And that would cover one staff person as well as overhead costs. And that one staff person we're finding is really, it needs to be an executive director type role that we need to fill, because having something less than that is really not going to drive the RCD. And that's what we need. We need a driver for the RCD. And at this point, I've been standing in as that driver. But as I mentioned, I have another job. And so I really need the help to keep driving this forward. And I really believe in the RCD and what the RCD could be for this county and the potential. So we're currently working on that needs assessment, and I hope to come up in front of the board again in another couple of months to give you the results of that needs assessment. But overall, what we're hearing from our partners is that they too support the RCD growth and capacity and being able to take on these projects and be a partner to all these local agencies and organizations. And so we're really happy to hear that that support is definitely there and people want to see the RCD grow. And so we really just want to keep building on that and working with our local partners, building awareness for the RCD, and ultimately updating our long-term strategic plan. Those goals I mentioned that are a little outdated, I think, we could definitely do better than that and really start to incorporate our stakeholder input and partner input. And just, overall building our capacity and ability to do work in our community. And some of our building partnerships that we've really been working on are the Yuba Water Agency, the county, Sutter County RCD, and Yuba Watershed Protection and Fire Safe Council. Allison and I have kind of been working together over the past 6 months or so with Randy and trying to build a better understanding of how the RCD can support Allison's needs and the project she's working on. And so I think that's something our RCD sees that we've partnered with Sutter County to really build on the agricultural things and be able to do some of those projects. And now I want to see us to start to do more watershed forest resource projects. And so, there's a lot happening and a lot that still needs to be done. And so, I'm sure you're going to hear more from me soon, but that is basically it. And I will hand the floor over to Allison. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Lisa. And thank you to the board for having us here today. Again, I know I've met some of you, but I haven't met everyone. So you hear all right? Also, got it. Thank you. So I am Allison Thompson. I'm Executive Director of the Yuba Watershed Protection and Fire Safe Council. And like Lisa mentioned, thanks again for having us here to talk about Fire Safe Council programs and the RCD, our current programs and this growing partnership we'd like to emphasize a little bit. And just want to acknowledge too that, so much of the work that both of our organizations do and that we will do long into the future, it is thanks to the water agency's support, whether it's funding or just the general collaboration support we've had over the years. What you all do really empowers us to bring these programs that I'll talk about some of ours in a minute, really bring these programs to our communities and have a real impact on their livelihoods and on the forest around them. So I just want to put that out there. Thank you again. There we go. Next slide. Great. So as Lisa mentioned, the Fire Safe Council and the RCD have been working to build up this partnership between our two organizations. And there's obviously a lot more for us to do to figure out our strategic direction, both of that partnership and then also kind of fine tuning it for our individual organizations. But at least initially and generally, as Lisa was mentioning, the RCD is largely focused on kind of that larger landscape and conservation and soil and forest health. And the Fire Safe Council tends to focus more on that WUI, that community level much more, and also much more specifically on wildfire preparedness. That is like our primary focus. And of course, all of these things are completely interrelated. And so although we have these separate kind of high level focuses, that is why it makes total sense for us to work so closely together. So just for reference, I put up our mission here on the board, which is to bring together community stakeholders to promote wildfire preparedness and forest health in the Yuba County foothills through community outreach, collaboration and implementation. And so of course that is quite broad still, but it really does emphasize that wildfire preparedness piece for us. So to get an idea of how we implement that mission, so I'm going to try to, there we go, minimize that. So you get a few more pictures there. So this is an overview of the Fire Safe Council's current projects and programs. We have the general categories of collaboration, outreach, residential programs, and fuels reduction. As you can see, there are a lot of programs. We have a lot going on, so I'm not going to cover them all today. Don't worry about that. But I am going to dive into a couple programs, both that the Yuba Water Agency has funded, and then a couple new programs that have spurred out of that funding that I am excited to talk about and share with you. So first up, I want to talk about our home resilience program, which encompasses a few different pieces. So first, the Wildfire Mitigation Review Program that was funded by a 2019 Yuba Water Agency grant that supported volunteer training and outreach materials for program participants. And so that grant, well, let's see, it also funded a couple other projects that I'm not going to talk about today. They're still in the works, but I will have more to report on those later. But so specifically on this Wildfire Mitigation Review Program, it provides free on-site review of residential homes and properties by our trained volunteer advisors. In the review, it will assess a home's current level of wildfire preparation and provide recommendations for actions that a homeowner can take to improve the survivability of their home in case of wildfire. And so that includes things like route clearance and signage, as well as home hardening upgrades and defensible space fuel reduction opportunities. So we've completed 44 of these reviews since the program started about a year ago. And then we actually got another 12 signed up in the past couple of weeks that we still need to get out and take care of. So we're really excited to continue to grow this program and continue to provide what is basically personalized education to our residents on how they can improve their own individual wildfire safety. And so this review program is key to this overall home resilience program because what we are doing with our two new programs is that we are requiring the residents receive a wildfire mitigation review in order to be eligible for these two new cost share programs. So those are the other two pieces on this list, the home hardening and defensible space cost share programs. These are funded for 1 year by two different funding sources, but we will be looking for additional funding to continue these programs next year and beyond. We're seeing this year as kind of a pilot project to work out the kinks. Yes, but so both of these projects will each be a reimbursement-based program. Residents will complete either the home hardening work or the defensible space work, or they can hire a contractor to complete the work. And that's all based off of these wildfire mitigation reviews. They have a list from that review. They can pick and choose off of there, complete the work. They then apply for reimbursement of eligible activities. And then we will provide a 50% cost share match up to $2,000 per residence. So we are looking forward to launching these cost share programs later this month. We are going to be collecting and tracking data about how people are using the programs and really try to fine tune it and improve its effectiveness for our residents. So I do look forward to reporting back later in the year on these programs' progress. All right, and then next I'd like to talk about fuels reduction. So a couple of our big fuels reduction projects. First is the Upper Yuba Fuel Break Collaborative. And so you can see on the map there, this is a network of fuel breaks with the intent to create these long linear features of reduced vegetation. That can both slow down wildfires in some cases, not in all cases, as we've seen across the state, but they will also provide safe ground from which firefighters can more effectively defend our communities. And so we have landowner partners out there right now working on these fuel breaks. They're currently implementing the Brownsville fuel break, which is the one there in blue on the screen. They're kind of in the middle there. And then Oregon Ridge fuel break in red. I hear they have something like at least 8 masticators out there right now working between these fuel breaks and the Yuba Foothills Healthy Forest Project, which you can see on the map in gray, which I'm sure you all have heard about that project. All right, so, and then just to continue on that project, we do have an application in for funding that is pending to continue the Brownsville Organ House fuel break. And then we will be looking for additional funding to complete some of the other ones on the list. So like the Oregon Hill and Pike County fuel breaks up there. All right, and then to move on to our roadside fuels reduction work, I just want to say, again, a huge thank you to the board and to the water agency staff who supported us for approving the cost share funding at the last meeting. That is part of our application to CAL FIRE's Fire Prevention Grant Program. That I will talk more about that whole application in a second, but yeah, just want to extend our appreciation from the Fire Safe Council and all of our communities. I think that cost share that you all pledged, it's going to be instrumental, I think, in helping us secure this grant and get this work started on the ground. So because of last week, you all know a little bit about this project, but I wanted to share a little more. So this roadside fuel reduction work, it really stemmed from a previous grant that we received from the water agency to complete a project-specific analysis under the new Cal VTP programmatic EIR, which is a mouthful, but is basically CEQA documentation under a new streamlined process. So this PSA, as we call it for short, it will be finished late spring, early summer this year. And it is going to cover roadside fuel reduction within 150 feet of all county roads and within 30 feet of all county service area and private roads across the entire Yuba Foothills. So that's a lot larger buffer along the roads than we or than Public Works are currently able to treat, really going beyond that county right of way. So the PSA itself covers almost 13,000 acres of roadside. Our phase 1 implementation, if we're awarded this CAL FIRE grant, that will treat about 1,100 acres. And which is, it's in the ballpark of between 50 and 60 miles of county and private roads. And so you can see a map of that project. This is what we submitted to CAL FIRE up on the screen here. And so, like I said, this is phase 1. It's not even 10% of the acres that are covered under the PSA, but it still is a large and complex project. But because we have so much more to do, what we really do need to do next is to look at that long-term planning to continue to implement additional phases of this work across the foothills and to plan for continued maintenance of the work that has been completed and is going to be completed. And so just to wrap up here, that long-term strategic planning for both the roadside work and for all of these projects, that's where we can really work together with the RCD, with the water agency, and with all of our other partners to continue this work to protect our communities and our forests. And so that is where we're at and where we see things going. And with that, I would just like to thank you all for your time. And I believe Lisa and I can be here for questions if you have any.
Questions from the board? Comments from the board?
I have comments. There we go. Sorry, I have comments. First, I just want to thank you for the work you're doing. I don't live in the forest, but I really appreciate and I'm super proud of the work that the agency is doing up there and helping you guys to do your work. I'm really excited about the Yuba County Resource Conservation District, and I hope that we can find a way to help them continue and to work. Because I think that it's these two groups bring so much in helping us, all of us as partners, to bring in grants and resources to help us protect. We're in the business of protecting floods, and we should be in the business of protecting the forests, and we're doing that. And so I'm just super proud of the work that's going on up there. And I just want to thank you both for all your hard work. And I hope that we can find many more ways to partner with you guys as you continue the work to make Yuba County better. Thanks.
Other comments from the board?
Thank you so much for the hard work you've done and the coordination together, because both you work together well, and we look forward to future endeavors with you. Thank you.
So on behalf of where I sit in the 5th District, a dynamic duo here. You guys do a tremendous job. And on the volunteer side, I can't thank you enough. You have a life and you still find time for this. And that's tremendous. And for the two of you to work together, we have great opportunities and we have challenges. Yuba County is really becoming a leader in this whole field throughout the state, if not Western United States, working on our water, our forest, and you're in a prime position to continue that opportunity. I can tell you from where I sit, you have my full support. Regardless of which board I sit on, you have support. We talk in terms of 30,000 feet. Let's make it safe. Let's get things done. But you know what? You're the ones that get it done. You're the ones that are on the front line. You make it happen. What we just saw here, that's getting out into the street and making it happen. The public and results for those dollars that go out. It's not on a committee somewhere. It's the real thing. So extremely valuable. We'll see what we can do as a team. I look forward to a next presentation, pinning this down. So please come back, keep us informed. I do believe that this board will support you in many ways. So don't give up. And we look forward to the next presentation. And thanks for being here.
Okay. Thank you for having us. If I can mention too, I brought some of our calendars. They're on the side table there. If anyone hasn't gotten a calendar yet, please do.
Okay. Would it be possible to get a copy of the presentations?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you very much for all the board members.
Of course. Thank you.
Great. If you'll stay just a little bit and watch the rest of what we have to present, if you have a few minutes, that'd be good. Okay, let's go into the manager's report.
All right, well, the roller coaster of this hydrology year continues. Unfortunately, we're in the low, slow part of the roller coaster, and it looks like that's going to continue. New Bullard's Bar is currently at about 647,000 acre feet, which is about 100% average year to date. Okay, so that all sounds good. We do have a good snowpack. However, we have no precipitation in the forecast, and we haven't seen significant precipitation since the first week of January. So we're in that high pressure drought scenario. Brent and I were on a NACWA call this morning, our every 2-week call with the North State, basically strategizing what we're going to do and manage through this drought. And I'll just say this, it was the most dire NACWA call that I've been on in the last 2 years during this stretch of drought. We're in decent shape in the Yuba watershed, but much of the state, including Shasta, they're not in great shape at all. So we'll continue to work on that. We're hoping for Miracle March. We'll see what happens there. We did change from a Schedule 5 to a Schedule 2 based on the new Bulletin 120 put out by DWR last week. So we've been conserving water all through the winter, but our minimum in-stream flows did increase last week. So we're now putting out a little bit more water based on regulation. Our inflow to New Bullards Bar is at 89% of average year to date, and the snowpack is at 75%. Now, if things continue dry, my concern is we see something very similar to last year where we see this decent snowpack. A 75% snowpack is decent, and that's great. However, last year, we didn't see that snow all end up in the reservoir. Either blows off with the wind, it sublimates, or it's taken up by the vegetation throughout the melt period. So I'm concerned that that's going to happen this year. There's no way to pin that down or estimate what that will look like. But point is we do have a decent snowpack. We want to make sure that gets into the reservoir. Okay, enough about the hydrologic conditions. Last board meeting, I reported that we were removing dead trees around Lake Francis. These are drought impacted trees. We continue that work. I don't have an estimate of additional trees identified since the last board meeting, but that work continues. I was actually out there 2 weekends ago just for fun and checking it out. And it's a significant amount of the overall amount of forested area on our property around Lake Francis. It's not like we're taking out a few trees here and there. It's a significant change in what it looks like out there. Okay, on to plant operations. Last week, PG&E had a transmission line disturbance, which impacted our Narrows 1 and 2 units. Our Narrows 2 unit tripped offline, and as a result, we had a speed increaser motor and resistor failed. And so we weren't able to bring that unit back immediately after PG&E restored the lines. We had to actually procure parts and repair the unit. I think it was like 3 or 4 days later by the time we got parts and put the unit back online. We maintained all our minimum flows. We had no issue there. We just lost generation from Narrows 2 for that period of time. And I'll just compliment our plant staff that we try to keep spare parts on hand, and we do keep spare parts, but we don't have every single spare part, but they're able to procure the parts needed in a couple days and get the plant going. They responded quickly, they adjusted their schedules, and got the unit back as quickly as possible. But it's another example of, we have kind of a layer of criticality of spare parts we need and we think we need, but sometimes it's just a small little piece that it's not a major part in the grand scheme of things, but it's something that can keep a 55 megawatt generator offline, for a few days. So anyway, I want to compliment the plant staff for reacting quickly to that. Last week, we conducted our annual meeting with PG&E to talk about their work planning for the year and our work planning for the year. Basically, what we try to do there is coordinate outages, right? We normally have our outages in the fall, our major generator maintenance outages. So we let PG&E know what our schedule is so they can coordinate transmission line outages concurrent with our outages. We talk about many other things, and this is a meeting that's required by our shared facilities agreement with PG&E. We conducted that last week. It went well.
It's Charlie.
I did mention there was a, it's been dry. There is a storm in the forecast this coming weekend, but John's reporting to me, don't get our hopes up. There's not a lot of precipitation associated with this storm coming in, maybe a light drizzle is what I'm hearing. So no significant runoff there. Okay, all of our member units that pumped groundwater for contingency pumping last year have been reimbursed for those costs. The deficiency pumping total volume was 79,303 acre feet. And that equated to just over $4 million in reimbursement costs paid by the agency. That's a cost of about $50.44 per acre foot. We went through a few different negotiation meetings with the member units. In years past, we had one price per acre foot that we paid all the member units who participated in the pumping. This year, we broke it up by, and it was their choice, the way they justified the reimbursement, and they broke it up by member unit because costs vary between each member unit. So that's all been done and taken care of and paid. On February 3rd and 4th, I attended the CFE, the California Foundation for Environment and the Economy Conference on infrastructure funding. This was in Napa. And the key takeaway there was that unprecedented funding will be available, but the details on how and when are still being developed. And we are closely monitoring all the developments and the emerging opportunities. Now, I'll hear from you all. There's all this funding available. How are we going to get it? How are we going to get it? How are we going to get it? We're monitoring that. The details haven't come out, but we're going to do our best to get as much of that funding for our infrastructure as possible. And not just our infrastructure, but, forest health and, our partners in the wastewater efforts and all that. So we're monitoring that, and we'll bring that back as soon as we know more. Street, including elect tech, supervising elect tech, senior hydro engineer, recruitments over the next couple of months, and interviews have begun, and we're close to hiring a human resources manager. Adam would like to report that in Sacramento, Assemblyman James Gallagher was selected by his colleagues to serve as leader of the Assembly Republican Caucus. And on the comms side, last Friday, the Appeal Democrat featured an article that ran in the Sacramento Bee the day before about Southern California needing through the Yuba Accord. Dee Dee was on 93Q radio last Friday and had a lot of opportunity to talk about the good work we're doing to improve the quality of life in Yuba County. Dee Dee and Jackie are participating in Ella Elementary School's Read Across America event this week, reading Dr. Seuss books to the students. And this weekend, we're sponsoring the Chamber Gala. And next month, we're sponsoring the Day for Women, the Lip Sync Battle. And we have a team competing in the Lip Sync Battle as well. And the Spring Fling fundraiser for the Farm Bureau. Our upcoming meetings are on March 1st, where we have our regular board of directors meeting, the ABP meeting, and a policy review committee meeting. That's all I have.
Very good. Into directors' reports.
Sure. I want to reiterate what Willie said. It was the worst news I've heard at an Aqua meeting in all the time I've been in Aqua. This year's drought, especially up in the Shasta and Trinity area, is worse, far worse than it was last year. And they kept saying, these are the indicators from last year, and these were actually good, and we can't do that this year. And so it is really brutal on the SAC, especially, and it's not very good on the Feather. So I think there's going to be a lot of work to be done collaborating, but it also means there's going to be calls to get water, not only in transfers, but they'll be looking at how to change water and do things. So I think just remember that it's going to be a rough year from a statewide water, how we're moving water around. I think the other thing is this is really going to impact hydro capability in the mostly on the federal side. One of the things that was commented to Trinity is they're really the big powerhouses along in the Shasta system, and that they had lower water than they've ever had in Trinity at this point. And Trinity was also the one that they use the water out of Trinity to bring Shasta water cool enough to keep the salmon alive. So this could be, I mean, we're unprecedented, and the contracts, all the contracts along the waterways, potentially on the SAC side and in the Feather, are going to get hit hard. And one of the things that we're talking about at NACWA is, what do we do now? Because the reality is a lot of the unemployment in those areas is all ag based. And so you're going to see a rise in unemployment in the Sac Valley Basin, Sac Valley counties that are ag based, because there's just not enough water. And to give you the number they used, there's 1.6 million currently in Shasta, and we need 2 million just to make flush flows to the end of next September or October. So, I mean, that tells you this could be a year where nobody gets water. It's brutal. And so just kind of, I want you to remember that, and to remember that, when you see your friends and neighbors, we have plenty of water. We seem to have enough water. Let's go with that. But I also want to say that, tell them that you got to conserve, because it's just a bad look. And it's also, we need to be conserving water just like everybody else, but you could well see, another emergency and other rules and regulations on how much you can water your lawns and all that stuff. Be prepared for that, because it's a rough year. I would like to, I'm going to let Charlie, if he's on, but if he's not, please come back to me, because I want to close it.
I'm on.
Great. Okay, I won't mention it. I'll let Charlie take care of it. That's it. I'll stop there. But I just want to let you guys know it's an ugly water year. Aqua conference is coming up. Hope you guys will take the chance. It's going to be in Sacramento, so you don't even have to spend the night. You can just run down and run back. That's if you'd like. Thanks.
Cool. Okay, Charlie.
Okay. First off, in 1962, we had the October 9-inch rain. That was the time that Mimi Matthews married my brother. She passed away Saturday of cancer, and I would like to have the board adjourn in her honor. She served 3 terms on the water agency and the board of supervisors. But if I could also go back on Willie's report, we're releasing 782 CFS now, and if we're in a Schedule 5 or a Schedule 6 here, do we have to be releasing that much here? Could you update us, Willie, a little bit on what some of the numbers are?
Yeah, Charlie, based on the B120 that came out last week, our minimum flows increased. So we're not in a Schedule 5, we're actually in a Schedule 2 now. So that's what we're releasing now is in accordance with Schedule 2 under the Yuba Accord.
Okay, I think that gets it. Seth, comments? Don?
Well, for me, it's a little exciting to see the development of Oregon House and Dobbins. As the whole project's starting to get a little more traction, I see this coming up in a variety of meetings and presentations. A lot of local leaders now are getting excited about it. They're working on the food hub. They're working on a lot of tourism items. So that whole thing could finally get some traction. Also, I just wanted to mention that March 5th is the Buckeye Water God Festival. So be aware of that.
And it never rains on that day, is that correct?
Not very often.
Well, maybe we can talk to the God and see if we can alter that.
We want it to rain this year.
Andy.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, where are we still talking to Firestorm at all about some assistance at some point in time? And if possible, we could give us a hint on where we stand with that. Okay, that's it.
Through the chair, I'm sorry. I do want to say that, so in 1992, when I was elected in 93, I came on the board with Mimi Matthews, and Mimi became my mentor in the water agency. I mean, I have a lot of love and respect for Mimi. The quick story is when we bought the Deadwood project, which we sold in 2014 when I came back on, Don Wilson, our general manager, took Mimi and I up, and we hiked all the way down the Deadwood project, and it was so brushy that we literally, both of us, and I'm the young kid, and she was, in my mind back then, more elderly. She was never elderly, but we'll go with that. We hiked down hundreds of feet on the pipe going down because we couldn't go anywhere else. And the only way we were getting out, we weren't going to climb out, so we had to get to the bottom so we could get a boat from the agency to pick us up. But I will always remember Mimi as being absolute fighter for the water agency. Absolutely was the one that helped me to really fall in love with what the agency does. So I would ask, I want to concur with Charlie that we close in memory, and if possible with, she literally is one of the history makers in our, when we go through the history, Mimi will be part of that because she really was a leader in that time. And just, I'm really broken up about it. She just was really amazing. So I wanted to let the board know that.
I assume you would like the full board to sign.
Yes, absolutely.
Please.
That'd be good. Jim, any comments? So let me close here in that I really appreciate the fact that staff spends a lot of time thinking about what could happen, probably never will happen, but they have some great planning they put in place. The fact that I have a full screen of people here that are not in the room, I like the Zoom. I think it's really valuable. We're spread out all over the county and in some cases beyond the county, that you can monitor and stay in touch with what we do here. So I do believe we are very transparent and open to the public. So let me thank each and every one of the employees for what they do. They have the heart and soul of this community. They work together. I love teamwork. And don't forget the 13 seconds that people win games in 13 seconds. Anyway, great meeting. From here, we will move to closed session with legal counsel regarding existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D1.
Yuba-Sutter.live's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com.